ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me in the back? I want to have a sense of how loud I need to be. I'm going to start with that. We're good. A little louder. Ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with long-standing traditions, this wedding ceremony is going to begin with a little story. I have titled this story, Why Are We Here Today? And then, because I didn't want it to seem like some kind of an existential crisis, I added, why are we here today in this field? Given the very special occasion, I've packed in all of the biggest words, all of the tear-jerkers. It's a story that we're all familiar with. It's a classic. It's a traditional. It's a story of love. It's a story of forever until death do us part. It's a story of the most important day in a woman's life. It is a story about a ring that cost a man 3 months his salary.
More.
It is a story that includes a vast Quebecois fortune that has been brought down from the north as a dowry. Thank you, Andre. And finally, when night falls, under a full moon, it will be the story of two lovers who, for the first time, will lose their virginity. Before the eyes of all of their friends and family, and before heaven itself. You may not have read the fine print. You probably figured out that the story I'm going to tell is about a wedding. That thing that is the dreamy ending of every fairy tale. Except that Geneviève and Ariel never dreamed of getting married. So, why are we here today in this field? Once upon a time, there were two children, Geneviève and Ariel. They lived in two separate kingdoms, far, far apart, and they knew nothing of each other. And when they were young, they dreamed. They dreamed grand dreams. But they did not dream of getting married. For them, marriage was a social artifact. It was an unnecessary plot point from a previous generation. They came from cultures that had outgrown it. Marriage was a book when everyone was watching television. Geneviève and you can't imagine how many times I've practiced that. Geneviève and Ariel, they're friends, you and I. We're progressives. You know, we move quick. We've evolved. And yet, we are here today in this field. In time, as is often the case, Geneviève and Ariel grew, and their spirits grew bold. They became creatives. They were artistic and free and very adventurous. They were brave and they cast off convention. They followed their hearts. They pursued their passions. They argued with their teachers. They turned away from desk jobs and they built their own careers. And they sought inspiration beyond the safety of their walls. And one day, in a land foreign to them both, their paths crossed, and these two people fell in love. But we are not here today because they fell in love. We're here today because there's a dark side to this story. Because artistry and travel and freedom and independence comes with a price. And there's something that we lose when we cast off convention and tradition. And we lose stability. And their story is a story with a lot of unknowns. There's no guaranteed annual salary. There's no 20-year pension. They don't necessarily even know what country the rest of their story is going to take place in. But when they fell in love, they discovered that their two lives, their two very, very separate lives, were made better together. And the strength and the joy and the security that that love brought is unbelievably precious. And so, we are here today in this field for these two people to make a promise to one another. To make one thing in their very, very dynamic lives constant. To make one thing permanent. So that whether they wake up together or alone, whether they wake up in Montreal or New York City or Istanbul, whether it's raining or whether a sewing machine broke or whether call time is 4 a.m. or whether the barn collapses from snow or whether the flowers wilt in the sun, they will have one constant. They will have each other. And you are all part of this as well, because you have been invited here to bear witness. It's a little promise, but it's a really, really big deal. And I think everyone here knows that and can feel that. You weren't chosen at random. Each one of you has in some way shaped the lives that are standing before you. And at this point in my wedding, everything that I was hearing was like a big swirl of words and emotion. And I could just barely sort of cling on to what was happening. And so I want to take a little teeny moment here and give you guys a chance to look at all of the people who have come. You have a lot of people. You have a lot of people who've shown up for you. And you may recognize them in some unusual ways. Individual people here. Do you know the person who many years ago met when you were both joined a Danish fundraising cult? Do you know the person who took you on a very enlightening midnight tour of the Tenderloin? Who loves strange people? Do you remember a person who slept 36 hours in a ditch, twice, waiting for a train that never came? Do you remember building a giant wall for someone to rappel down it in a ball gown? Do you remember knowing more trivia than someone else who was an adult? Very embarrassing. Do you remember the lake? It's been a long time, and it would be a pleasure to welcome you both at the Blueberry Place. Do you remember Gier's birthday at Vice Versa, dancing like crazy, shaking our hair like a black metal rock star? Do you remember you surprised me with my first Christmas tree at age 33? Do you remember you helped me find a hermit crab in your van? Do you remember you once showed up on my doorstep, unannounced, to edit your film, and left 3 months later? You attempted to fix my broken leg by yanking on it after leaving me in a field for a few hours. You were the Luton Gypsies with your sister to give us Christmas gifts a long time ago. You taught me how to peel ginger with a spoon. We said no cats. She said, I have no cats. And suddenly from under the bed we heard meow. graduate and going to the senior prom with an old senior woman, I gave her a speech about getting you home on time. You stripped naked in my car in a 7-Eleven parking lot. And that's clear self-shoulder blows. In Mexico, we blew the transformer on the street, and the entire surrounding neighborhood was out of power for hours, and we had to wash our dishes with cooling. I scared the crap out of you in my wolf fur suit. The point is, there are a lot of people here to celebrate. Because there are really, really very few times in our lives where it is truly appropriate to use words like forever, to use words like always, to use words like eternity. And we are here in this field today to hear those words spoken from the heart. It's a big deal. There are going to be vows, and there's going to be a kiss soon. A first kiss between a husband and a wife. Soon, but not yet. But after that, Geneviève and Ariel are going to plant a tree right over there. So after that kiss, they're asking that all of you come and help throw some rich soil on the roots of that tree, to fertilize that tree as you have all fertilized their lives and made it richer. And now, it's time for some vows.
I take you, Ariel, to be my companion.
Je te prends comme compagnon.
I promise to be your lover, your friend, and your adventurer.
Je promets d'être ton amour, ton ami, ton aventurier.
To be your partner in parenthood.
D'être ton partenaire dans la parentalité.
To help you become this amazing person I know you are. So that you can achieve everything you're capable of.
De t'aider à devenir la personne merveilleuse que je vois en toi afin que tu accomplisses tout ce dont tu es capable.
To make you laugh when you cry. To fill our lives with joy and friendship.
De te faire rire quand tu pleures.
Want to add on to that?
One more. De remplir notre vie de joie et d'amitié.
To listen with love, patience, and compassion when we face obstacles.
D'écouter avec amour, patience et compassion quand nous faisons face à des obstacles.
To always remember we're a team, even through disagreement.
De toujours me rappeler que nous formons une équipe, même devant nos